Pass Around the Smile is like your go-to friend, the one that lifts you up and backs you till the end. She's there to guide and inspire, challenge and teach, and remind you that your best self isn't out of reach. Self-development, manifestation, self-love and more, it's time to trust the process more than ever before. Welcome to Pass Around the Smile, the podcast. I'm your host, Cleo Massey, and I am so glad you're here. Let the magic begin. Hello and welcome back to the Pass Around the Smile podcast. I am joined by a very, very, very special guest. Not only is she a good friend of mine, she is incredible at what she does, and I just know my Pass Around the Smile community, you are going to absolutely thrive listening to Sinead and her insights and her wisdom, and I'm just so honoured to have you here today.
Thank you for having me.
Yay, I'm so excited. This is just going to be a conversation. It's like it's just normal, you and I at a cafe or at the beach or, you know, what friends do. But we have a microphone in front of us.
Yes, we do. I can see that.
And a camera. But guys, Sinead has been looking into the work of Veda Austin, who is a water researcher, and she specializes in crystallography. Is that how you say it?
That's right. Crystallography.
Yeah. Nailed it. So we are going to kind of do a little deconstruction, I guess, of Veda's work. Sinead's been listening to her podcasts, doing a little bit of research on Veda's research. So everything that we talk about in this episode today is kind of Sinead's interpretation of Veda's research. And then I'm also going to ask Sinead just some questions about what she does and what she finds in her practice. Sinead loves talking about, you know, the holistic approach to psychotherapy, and I'll read, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to stop talking right now and I'm going to read your bio, because I'm your friend, I just want to talk about you because I think you're amazing. Your bio really encompasses everything you do. So I am going to read the bio and then we are going to get straight into the episode, and guys, you are going to feel inspired and excited. This is a magical concept, isn't it, that we're talking about?
It is quite magical, but then there's science behind it, which is what I love.
That's what I love too, because sometimes I think as, you know, spiritual beings, we can think, oh no, it's so woo-woo, it's too good to be true, but science backs this stuff, which is so exciting. Anyway, so Sinead's little bio, here we go. Driven by a passion for self-discovery and a commitment to inclusive mental health care, Sinead is a psychotherapist with a master's in psychotherapy and counselling and a bachelor in psychological sciences. She approaches her practice intuitively and holistically, integrating the mind, body and soul. Drawing on 7 years of experience supporting individuals with intellectual impairments, Sinead deeply understands the unique challenges and strengths of each individual. She is all about embracing different approaches because she truly believes there is no one size fits all solution.
Yes.
That's you. That's Sinead.
That is me.
So, yes, welcome to the Pass Around the Smile headquarters, I like to call it. And let's get straight into Veda and what she does. So do you want to give us a little bit of an introduction on exactly what she does, and then we'll just dive straight in?
Yes. So I'm so excited to talk about this because I feel like a lot of the time when I talk about it, people just look at me and they're kind of just like, what are you even talking about? It doesn't make sense. But a little while ago, I think I brought it to you on the beach one night, like there was a full moon or something. And
there was a full moon, we were looking up at it and you were like, have you heard of Veda Austin?
Yes. And I was just blown away by her work. So pretty much she is a New Zealand water researcher, and she photographs water once she has frozen it, and she has put an influence or an intention into it prior to freezing it. And then afterwards, she takes photos of what the pictures or the art that this water creates. And yeah, it's mind-blowing. First of all, she will typically have a petri dish, she'll put some water in it, and then she will put it over a picture or put an intention into it, and then she'll freeze it. And then take it out of the freezer and look at the picture and take a photo of what the ice crystallography makes.
It's honestly so mind-blowing. So I've just been on her website just prior to this, and I think it said that she's made like 40,000 images or something in her research.
Yeah. Yep.
And they're all on different things. So, for example, like I'll put her website in the show notes so you guys can have a look yourselves. And we also, Sinead and I, want to encourage you guys to have a play with this yourself. Just before this episode, Sinead, my mum, and I had a little play. We don't know the result yet. It may freeze too much while we are recording, but we will check it. We first put like a drawing of a flower under the dish, but we were using like a plastic Tupperware dish, so we're not sure if that'll work. And then we found a glass dish and we put it above my positive guidance card deck, and we all kind of looked at it and sent the intention of a sun and moon, looked at the sun and moon within the water, kind of imagined it there. So we'll see and we'll keep you updated. But if you go on Veda's site, her images are ridiculous. Like,
yeah.
Boats and fish and like, what else does she have?
Oh, she's got like churches, hearts. She's also developed, like, over the time, she calls them hydroglyphs. So where she has tried and tested the same intention to the water up to 50 times for it to come back the exact same glyph until she, I guess, names it as that.
Wow.
So it puts a little bit of science, a little bit of, what's the word? Like, it has...
Energy?
No, like, it has to be that.
Oh, yes,
she
sorry.
can-
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
before she can say that that's what it is.
Yeah, so, you know, not only has she tried it like 40,000 times with different things, within that 40,000 times, she'll try the one thing 50 times to prove that it is so.
Yes.
It's absolutely incredible. And when you look at these images, you're like, how can water look like that leaf or that tree in such detail? The ones that got me were the pictures of people.
Yes.
Like full portraits of people. And talk us through the process of the intention that she does. Like, how long for? Like, what is she just thinking it in her mind? Does she put a picture? Like, how does it work?
So from what I've seen just through her, like her Instagram and listening to her podcast, I've listened to a lot of her podcasts. It seems as though she either, just writes a word. She's tried and tested it with the same word in different languages as well to get the same result.
Wow.
So I think an example she shared was she did love, and then she did love in Hindi, and it produced the same picture.
Wow.
As well, intention and ways of healing the water. So this is what I really loved, because I've kind of, I guess, called myself a bit of a water snob. I typically don't like the taste of tap water, and, you know, I'm a little bit fussy. But she speaks about all the different waters and their different patterns that they freeze, and that you can essentially heal this disorganized tap water.
Wow. Tell me more.
So even by our own energy that we put into it, whether it's like a vibrational energy through Reiki healing or a sound bowl, and then even leaving it next to a glass of natural spring water overnight
Can change the energy within that water.
can change the energy within the tap water.
You said something to me before we were recording, which I absolutely loved. And you were like, because I'm the same, I don't love tap water. If I'm at a restaurant and I'm thirsty, I'll have it. And actually, my mum was saying before, she's the same. If she's at a restaurant and she's thirsty, but she will talk to the water and give it intentions of like health and pure energy and, you know, good light. And now we know that, like, she wasn't just being woo-woo and weird.
Yeah.
She was actually like doing what Veda says is true.
Yeah.
But I liked what you said about it's not the water that comes out of the tap that
That I don't like.
yes,
It's the thought of the piping, and like I live in a really old building, so like just the thought of that, like you don't really know. But to almost just show unconditional love for the water. And something I heard Veda say, which really humbled me, was when someone had asked her, like, what's the best water to drink? And she said, well, the water that you get to drink.
wow.
Because there's so many people out there that don't have any water.
Yeah.
Or they have to walk for days to get water.
That's exactly right. And then it goes to show, like, your intention about the water that you're drinking is what matters, not the water itself.
Yeah.
And she has shown that the intention that you give the water is everything. Like, she literally has shown it in so many photographs. By the way, guys, I feel like I have to address the crow in the background that you guys are going to be hearing. This is the thing, when I moved into the Pass Around the Smile HQ, as we call it, space to record, I knew that things like this were going to happen, but it means that you can have video, and you guys have already said to me that you're loving the video. So I hope you don't mind the crow. I just going to address it, but now I think it's flown away. So
Probably.
maybe we just had to
We just had to acknowledge it.
Oh no, it's still there. Anyway, so what this has me thinking, and you, Sinead, sent me some of your notes, and I love that some of Veda's work is influenced by, I might say this wrong, Masaru Emoto?
Yeah.
Yeah, so he was a Japanese man known for his work on the effects of human consciousness on water, involving freezing water samples and then photographing the resulting ice crystals. So something that I've talked about a lot of times on my podcast is that water experiment, which I didn't realize it was probably him who started it. So can you take us through that a little bit? Because I think that really brings into why this is so important, and why, like, talking to our water and the water around us, not just the water that we drink or bathe in, everything is water, like why it is so important.
Yeah, so Emoto, I'm just going to say that because
don't say his first name.
No.
It's hard.
His work, unfortunately, was very discredited by the science community. But essentially, he did studies on water, and I think, like, the examples you've shared in the past is speaking positively and speaking negatively, showing love, showing hate, and even, like, music. And I think it's a little bit of an older study. I'm not sure how I feel with the music, like, as in, who's to say that heavy metal is going to have a negative impact? You know, I think that might have a lot to do with the researcher and their intention as well.
Right.
But just the simple things of showing love, showing hate, and positive and negative, and how that actually impacted the water. And Emoto looked at his under a microscope, where Veda does her work macroscopically, so it can be seen with the eye.
Yeah.
And yeah, he found that water has the ability to memorize and transmit information. So I think that's pretty big. And it's that human consciousness. So the consciousness of us being in a negative mind frame and being like, you suck, water, like, you're disgusting, and all of these words, it actually changes the molecular makeup or the molecular structure of the water. Wow. So when they're freezing it and looking at it under a microscope, it's very different to the water that was, you know, shown praise and gratitude and love, and classical music.
There you go, yeah. And I read that Veda also has done, like, sound bowls.
Yeah, she does a sound bowl. So I would love to actually talk about her tap water, the spring water kind of study in a moment. But yeah, just I think that Emoto's work really paved the way for all of Veda's work, and it just proves or shows and demonstrates that, like, energy can directly impact the things around us.
Yeah, and you said it so beautifully to me before we were on air. It makes us sound like we're a radio host. But you said, because I had said to Sinead, I was like, look, we love the law of attraction here. I know you love the law of attraction as well, and my community love it. And I was like, how, when we're looking at, okay, we can directly influence water by our thoughts and our emotions and by even music, what about when we are trying to manifest things that don't necessarily have water within them? But then you reminded me that water is within and around us and even in the air at all times, which is so true.
Yeah, because I guess we think of water and we think of it something that we drink or something that we, you know, add to our cordial or whatever we do with water, but we shower in it, we bathe in it. But then there's ice, then there's gas and
steam.
Yeah, all of the different, you know, ways of water, I guess.
It literally surrounds us.
Yeah.
And it's alive, just like energy is alive, like energy attracting energy. And I'm sure we'll get on to, of course, the water within our bodies, but maybe touch on the whole spring water thing, because I think that's really interesting.
Yeah, so Veda did a study on the tap water where she would freeze the tap water, look at its crystallography, and it would be quite disordered or like chaotic, like very jagged type images or crystallographs, I guess. If you guys jump on her Instagram, you'll be able to see lots of photos, and I guess it makes this conversation make a bit more sense, because it's hard to like picture what we're talking about unless you've kind of seen a brief example. But so she did the tap water, and that's what it would come up as, the chaotic type crystallographs. And then she would let it defrost, and then she would heal it by using a Tibetan singing bowl or holding it to her heartbeat for a minute and just showing it some loving intention and putting it back into the freezer, and then looking what it would come out as. And she found that it would come out like fern type hexagons, like with a little bit more beautiful than the chaotic
like a messy cracked kind of pattern.
Yes. So she did that, and like that's pretty amazing.
It's
like,
so incredible.
It's showing that it's like becoming a little more, I guess in some way, healed to the spring water.
And what I love, sorry, do you want to keep it? I just cut you
going,
off. What I love so much about this is that it's something that we can all put into practice quite easily. Like, you don't have to be a scientist. You don't have to have all of this like equipment, and you also don't have to take a lot of time to do this. Like you mentioned, how long does she kind of give the intention?
Well, usually from what she sort of said on her Instagram, I would love to do one of her workshops where she fully teaches you the whole way of it. But from what I've gathered, I think it's about around 30 seconds up to, no less than 30 seconds to give intention or hold it over an image or a word. And then she does the short-term freezing method now, where she just freezes the bottom layer of the water. And with her petri dishes and her freezer, she says it typically takes around 5 minutes.
Wow.
Or so. Using a glass dish, a bit thicker, so that's probably why ours is taking so long. Haven't mastered it yet, but I'm so keen to like get more into it and see the magic. Like there's something about just being around the possibility of something that's like, it's still magic, like, to me.
I completely agree. It's so magical that you can literally change a structure with your mind.
Yeah.
And if we can change a structure, well, I shouldn't call water a structure, a body.
Well, I guess
you are changing its structure.
It's like it's molecular, the molecular structure, I guess, or the energy of it.
Like it has been proven that we can do that with just our minds in 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Like, what? That is insane. And, something that you had written in your notes, which I found so interesting, was I have talked to my community before about our bodies being like 70 to 80% full of water. But you mentioned the molecular count. Talk to us about that, because that kind of blew my mind and made me just remember the importance of talking kindly to yourself.
Yeah, so I guess like we said before, like we typically think of water as something that we drink, and that's why it's not hard to believe that, we are between 65 and 80% water by volume. But when you look at water in all of its other forms, like by molecular count, we make up like 99%. So that means like, within our blood, within our cells, all of those parts.
So we're, wow, like 99%. And that goes to show the power that we have over what is going on inside our body, which then, affects our mind and our soul and our feelings and our reactions and our health and everything. Like, this is huge.
Yeah, it's very wild. And I think as well, like staying on the thought of kind of putting a good intention, good energy out there, and what that can do to, one, the water we drink, let alone the water that's in our bodies. Water's in all of our foods. It's like in pretty much everything. We bathe in it, like all of these things. Veda did this study, which I thought you would be very interested in, was about the saliva.
Oh, yes.
So she said the word, I think it was 8. She may have done it on many other things as well, but the one I've got written down here and that I remembered from her podcast was 8. She said 8, and that was the last word that came out of her mouth, and then she spat into the petri dish and froze it. As we see our saliva, like we see it like bubbles and stuff like that, they kind of like disperse a little bit, and it left the picture of an 8. in the saliva, which I guess goes to show that like water is like, it has a memory. It has a memory of the last words we spoke, the information that we just spoke. And I think what's really important about that, there's two things. Like one, the words we speak and the intention that they have. But two, if we think about all the things that nourish our body, that's then the welcoming party for all the things coming in. So if we're speaking negatively and then drinking water, or speaking negatively and then eating, like what's that going to do to our internal body? Because that's literally the welcoming committee for anything coming into our body. So it's just like, it's really important to think about. And I think I said to you guys before with like tap water, since learning about all this stuff, like I was always a bit of a snob about it, but now I almost, like I still show the love for the tap water. And
like because it's an energy as well.
Like, I'm sorry. Like,
it's not your fault you were sent through pipes.
Yeah.
Not in a beautiful waterfall out in Springbrook.
Yeah, that I know where you're coming from. And
yeah, wow, that blew my mind. Like that, what you say your saliva remembers, like the effect that we have is so big. Like personally, I've talked a little bit about it on my podcast. That the last month I've been really hard on myself just for many different reasons. And one of the times when I was being hard on myself was like when I'm feeding, like as a mum. And, you know, I worry that I guess the indigo's picking up on my negative energy from the day, or my negative intentions on myself, like not feeling like a good enough mum or whatever it is on that very day. Yeah. So I, of course, make an effort to separate when I'm feeling that way from Indy, like, and I'll make sure that I'm my best self with her, but easier said than done sometimes.
Yeah.
So what I'll do is when I pump my milk, I will always talk to it and say, oh, you are so healthy. You are so nutritious. You are so nutrient dense. You are so thick and creamy. Thank you for bringing so much health into my baby's body. And then I was like, why am I just talking to the milk that I express? Like, why am I not talking to my body? Like, I breastfeed her multiple times a day. And I need to be kinder to myself before expressing the milk, because then the milk will come out with this beautiful energy. So just learning to be more gentle and kinder to myself, and knowing that in those moments when I am feeling like anxious or frustrated, saying things like, oh my God, you're so silly for doing this, or like, I'm so stupid because I woke her up and that was my fault, or, you know, whatever it is. It's like I'm literally damaging the energy inside of my body, which is then being passed through my milk into her, and just kind of thinking of it of like a whole, you know.
But I mean, don't be so hard on yourself, because like I said, like there's the two things as well, like that's the welcoming party. So Indigo's having the best days of her life. So the words coming out of her mouth and the intention within her saliva is going to be like so pure.
That is such a nice way to put
cleanse
it.
Anything.
That is, thank you for that. And for any mums listening, and any non-mums as well, that just, you really articulated then the importance of like not thinking that your energy is wrecking the things around you or bringing other people down around you. Like, I think that really helped me just then, more than you know. And that just effortlessly came out of your mouth. Like, it goes to show why you're so good at what you do.
I guess as well, like something that really was shown through some of Veda's studies that really relates to that actually was her study she did on eggs.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes.
So, obviously she was seeing the amazing things that water was doing, and she thought, well, you know, what is the probably most sacred water there is? And that would be our amniotic fluid. And obviously that's a bit weird. You can't really just go around to people and being like, oh, can I
grab some of you?
When you go into labour, let us know and I'll come around and just scrape some of that off the floor.
For those of you who don't know, amniotic fluid is the fluid that a woman gets within her placenta when she's pregnant. Is it in the placenta or all around the sac? It's in there somewhere.
It's the water that breaks, I guess.
There you go.
So, yeah, inside
it's in there.
Inside of the... I don't know. I don't have a child. Haven't been through childbirth yet. But yeah, so she decided then the next closest thing would be maybe egg whites. And so she got the albumin out of the egg whites, which is... So there's two parts there's 3 parts, I guess, of the egg. The yolk and the egg white too. And then the albumin, which is kind of like the runnier egg white. So you notice when you like crack an egg, there's like a runny part, and then there's that real gloopy part, and then there's the yolk. So she started doing it with that, and she found that like free-range eggs had these beautiful patterns, like 6 specific patterns, every single free-range egg, every single happy hen egg. And then the caged eggs could barely form one pattern.
Oh.
So she did this study, and then she was just like, well, what happens if, we put them together? And so she sat one next to the other and found that the free-range happy egg started to heal the caged hen egg. So obviously I think she was putting this out on social media as she was sort of doing it, and people were coming back and saying, well, surely not if, you put multiple caged eggs around the free-range egg. And she was like, all right, I'll try it. And so she surrounded them, and she kept one aside, one of the caged eggs aside, to check, to make sure that it was still doing the same pattern as these other eggs. One free-range happy egg surrounded by caged hen eggs. And what she found was the eggs that were closest to the free-range egg had more healing, and it was just healing by proximity. So the ones that were further away had less healing, which is wild. So I guess the reason I wanted to talk about that was because, as you said, it's not always about, what we're putting out there, because it almost shows that the positive overweighs the negative.
Well, they say a positive thought is 3 times stronger than a negative.
Yeah.
So, wow. But you're right. It shows that, like, sometimes we can just be. We can just be being ourselves, and the influence just carries over. Like on the days where we are feeling like we are a drag or we're not our best selves, just trusting in the good energy that we can, even like Veda says, that we can like muster up in 30 seconds via an intention.
Yeah.
So intend something to yourself, to your beautiful body, whether it is health or wellness, or even whether it's the intention of a beautiful flower that makes you happy, or your dog that brings you joy and comfort. Like, give yourself 30 seconds of love. It is going to change the makeup. Like, and then that is going to be passed on to those around you. It's not hard work.
No. Healing by proximity. Like, I guess if we think about it, we love being around people who are happy and positive. Like, it's a feeling. Like, it makes us feel good. And even just thinking about how healing it is to be just unconditionally loved by somebody. Like, it's, I guess that just being in that energy is so healing itself. So, like, I guess it's a good thing to think about. Like, if not for yourself, for the other people around you.
Yeah, it's so beautiful. And yeah, it goes to show when you walk into like a yoga class or a meditation class or a retreat where there are many people there for the same reason with the same intention, and you automatically feel that ease and like comfort and calm and clarity, and you feel refreshed. And it's like because everyone's energy is coming together. I don't know if you've ever heard of the Maharishi effect. It's where they did it in America, and they got 1% of a city, of a population, to meditate on the same intention together. And the power that created, the crime rates dropped by, I don't have the details, but the crime rates dropped, like everyone's general happiness kind of went up. I don't know how they measured it, but it was really powerful.
Yeah.
But yeah, wow.
That's cool. And I guess as well, it's also important to remember that, like, if you are surrounded by negative people, whether, sometimes you can't choose, whether it's family or your spouse is going through something different, like difficult or whatever it is, it's so important to remember that, like, your energy doesn't need to be impacted by that. And it's not always going to be. Like, you can still be there for them and not be worried that that's going to transfer onto you.
Yes.
Just like the little eggs.
I was just about to say
they just started to heal them, the closer ones.
Exactly. And the good egg didn't get drained of its energy, did it? It didn't get drained of its happiness and its health.
No. It just shared it.
Oh. I hope this is making everyone feel really good, because it's making me feel really good and really excited.
Yeah.
Excited that we can all do this. Not only can we have fun and experiment with a little dish of water, which we're doing now, and we'll check soon, but do it with yourself. Again, it's something I really need to work on at the moment, is just, being kinder to myself. You talk a lot with your clients about like the mind and body kind of connection.
Yeah.
Can you talk to us about that a little bit?
So I guess it's like we've been talking a little bit about water, I guess. And if you look at water, it is sort of quite it's an emotional thing, I guess. Like the waters and the water works when we cry and those types of things. And the mind-body connection, I think, is so important, because I feel like as humans, not just adults, as humans, we tend to like intellectualize a lot. I mean, I'm an overthinker.
Same.
I tend to overthink a lot of things, or try to figure things out instead of just sort of sitting with them and seeing where it goes.
Yeah.
And I think with the mind-body connection is like, it's like we've kind of forgotten a little bit about our body, and we're kind of just operating from the shoulders up, and everything's in our head. But if you think about, say, like, how do you feel when you're excited? Like, where do you feel that in your body?
I don't know, in my heart?
In your heart?
Yeah.
Think about Beyonce, Coachella.
I think actually in my chest. My chest just went,
Yeah. So that's a physical feeling that we feel. Like for me, like when I'm excited, I think my chest flutters. You know, when I'm nervous, maybe my tummy down lower gets a little bit fluttery. When I'm angry, my head starts to really swirl. So all of these things, we're feeling them in our body, but why do we feel them in our bodies? Is like emotion that's in there. And so what happens when we're just stuck in this intellectualizing kind of loop of trying to figure out like, oh, I'm so angry, why did that happen? Or if I didn't do this, and instead of actually feeling what that anger feels like, it's not really going to work. Have you ever experienced that? Like where you sort of stuck in something and you kind of can't
get out of it?
Yeah.
It's like a loop. Yeah.
And if you make a decision, you might then do the wrong behavior or...
100%. I feel like very often it starts with overthinking, and then, I don't know, instead of like dealing with it, whether it's personally or with someone else, I'll make it bigger in my head and I'll go over and over it, and then I'll start having fake bloody conversations with myself and fights, and and we know that the mind can't tell the difference too between like if it's happening in real life or if it's happening in our mind. So I have definitely experienced that.
Yeah.
How do we do better?
Well, I think like the first thing is an awareness. So having an awareness, since doing my studies, I'm just like, oh, well, this is the bloody answer to everything. Awareness and love. Like, why do we even need anything else? Just having that awareness. And I like to describe it like in a really simple way. And for all you mums out there as well, like this might be really helpful. So like if you... I can't remember the person's name who talks about this, but the brain in the hand, it's something that's really stuck with me. Have you heard of it before?
No.
So if you think of your brain, so like I'm just going to refer to my notes here as well.
We love some notes.
You've got your hand, and then so the wrist here is like the spinal cord connecting to the body.
Okay.
You've got your hand. Your palm is the brainstem, which controls like our functions, our breathing, our heart rate. Then you've got your limbic system, your emotional system here.
Okay.
And then you've got this one here, your cortex, which controls our emotions, our decisions, our reason, our logic, all of these things. And so if we're in our heads, like something's happening, we're angry, think of a toddler.
Yeah.
Toddler has a tantrum, and we literally say they've flipped their lid. Have you heard of that term before?
You flipped your lid.
Their lid's flipped. And that's like quite physical, like their lid is flipped. They are not running out of like reason and logic. Or if we're in a really heightened emotional state, like our reason and our logic is gone.
Yeah.
So we're sitting in this, like we only kind of have access to our emotions here. And if you've ever been angry or extremely upset or whatever it is, and you're trying to then make reason and logical decisions, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
And I guess where the mind-body connection comes in is just about working on getting that lid back down and connecting back in with our body and feeling the emotion and sitting in it. And
riding the wave,
letting it flow through, seeing what wisdom it has for us, and making our informed decisions or like whatever our next move might be from that wisdom and the insight.
What a beautiful way of explaining that. Yeah, thank you.
Well, I hope it made sense.
It really did. And it makes me feel like calm and optimistic about, the next time I do flip my lid. I've been flipping my lid a bit lately. I think Scorpio, and my hormones are still a bit wild, like postpartum. So the lid is flipped often, and that kind of makes me excited to give it a go because it seems very reasonable and it also just makes sense.
Yeah.
It just makes sense.
Even, like when you're trying to reason with a drunk person, like it just doesn't work. That lid is flipped.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
and the work that you do, you kind of come from, I've forgotten the word. There's psychotherapy. I ChatGPT'd it.
So the school that I studied at was very influenced by process-oriented psychology or process work.
Yeah, and just when you were saying before, like, you've got to tune into that place of wisdom that we all have within us.
Yes.
I like how you, with your clients, you come from a place of integrating that holistic side of things, and maybe talk to us a little bit about that, and also like the dreams that you can integrate into your work.
So I guess like any of this work that we've already spoken about today with the water, like having that curiosity. So like as a therapist, genuinely being in the room curious for whatever's going to unfold, and not having an expectation, or like they refer to it in process work as like a beginner's mind, like a not unknowing mind. So you don't know any of the information that's within the room. You're just going with what is there at that time. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I guess picking up on a lot of the subtle, whether it's body movements or energy shifts, like we all know what it feels like when we walk into a room and somebody's had the best day or the worst day. So those types of energy shifts. I already said body language. Yeah, body symptoms as well. If someone feels something in their body, like how does it feel in your body? That is something that I ask so often in therapy. How do you feel that in your body? Where do you feel that? Like explain it to me. And that's where that mind-body connection is so important.
Yeah.
To be able to do that.
Yeah.
And dreams. So like having your dreams, or even random daydreams or thoughts, like not just passing them off for nothing or a coincidence or whatever it is. Like really, if something has stuck with you enough that when you're bringing it into your therapy session, or that when you're journaling about it that afternoon, if it's still in your mind, it's worth diving into. It's worth asking yourself questions about it, because there will be a wisdom or an insight that you need to know.
Oh, I love hearing that from you, because you are so well studied. You're so good at what you do, but you come from such a lovely, like, spiritual standpoint, as well as having the science that backs what you do. So it's nice for us woo-woos that, our dreams, don't just push them off. See them as creative energy that could help propel you forward and help bring those answers and the divine wisdom that is within you, within that beautiful water that's within us all. It's magic. Okay, so I'm thinking we might stop here and go check our water that we've frozen, and then we'll continue. Exciting. We'll see. It may not have worked, it may have worked, but let's see. We'll come back.
Have a look.
Okay, we're back. Actually, I wanted to say too, before, when Sinead, you were giving that example, what was that called?
The brain in the hand.
The brain in the hand example. Remember that I am now filming my podcast as well. So Sinead was actually giving like a physical example with her hand. So if you're a visual learner, tune in to the video, which you can see on Apple, on Spotify, on YouTube, and you can actually see how she was doing it with her wrist and her hand and all of that. But we're back.
We're back.
I'm about to say, we guys are back. We're back.
We are back. And we have an exciting result, I would say.
We do.
I mean, for a first time.
For a first time, I'm pretty excited. Yeah. So the one that we did in the plastic didn't work, which we kind of thought that was not going to work anyway. But the one that we did in the glass dish that we put on top of my positive guidance card deck, and we all kind of visualized a moon and sun.
I mean, yeah.
It was pretty cool. It was messy, and it was like here, there, and everywhere, but you could see that the intention was there of like galaxy, and there was the most perfect round, like it crystallized in the perfect round like moon.
Yeah, with another little like sun, I guess, a full circle as well.
A full circle within that.
Yeah.
So I feel like it was trying to get like the moon and the sun. We did leave it too long. Like when Sinead first opened the freezer, she was like, oh, I think we've left it far too long. Obviously, we recorded like a 40-minute podcast in the meantime. So we're learning lessons, but all in all, like we were looking at it and we were like, we just did this. Like we gave this intention and it is actually working. Like, yes, we're going to practice and keep doing it and we'll share it with you guys. But that was really cool.
It was cool. And I think it's really important as well to just remember, like, as we sort of did it, like, I mean, I can't speak for you and your mum, but like just being curious and not having an expectation of what it's going to look like, or just it's an art form. Like it's
creative.
It's its own expression. So
have fun with it.
Yeah. That's pretty cool.
And as we were walking back from our little experiment, you told me one more of Veda's examples about a pregnant woman.
Yeah.
Tell us that story.
So I believe she like conducted this a few times, but just with a pregnant woman having a drink out of a glass of water, and she's asked, can you leave me the rest of that, or leave me some of that? So she then froze the water that was in the glass that the pregnant lady had been drinking out of to see what it would imprint, or what kind of crystallizations would come out. And it came out as something looking like a fetus, which is pretty wild. And she thought, we'll try it again. So she did it again, a different woman, a different pregnant lady, and again, a fetus. And this lady was getting a scan, I think, the following day. So then they compared the scan with the picture of the frozen water, and wild. So wild. Like, because you could kind of, from all the work we've spoken about, you could understand it if it was, she'd already had the scan, she'd already seen the scan, so she's got that in her conscious awareness, she's then drinking her water, then they're freezing it. But it wasn't.
No.
It was almost like a bit of a, I don't know, like maybe like genetic remembering of the water, or like what, like
our saliva remembered the number 8.
Yeah.
So why wouldn't, like, I guess she's drinking that water, so some of her saliva would have been going into the water, and then obviously the most important thing that's happening to that woman at that time is growing a baby. Like, there's another soul within her. It's just mind-blowing.
Yeah.
Like, it's so exciting. I just, like, I said to Sinead before, my high school self would be disgusted, I think, and also very surprised if she knew that Cleo right now, I think I'm into science.
Yeah. Well, I did mention we should have worn lab coats as well,
We
just to
should
really take the part.
We really should. Oh, Sinead, so can you give us a little kind of overview of like the lessons and the knowledge and what all of this actually means? Like, why is this important? How can we use it in our lives? Why are you so passionate about it?
Well, I guess that is such a big question. Like, why is this so important? Like, or I guess, why is it important to you individually, each person? For me, I think the possibility of the power of affirmations is like a big one for me. Like, just knowing that that's almost like been proven through this research. The power of our words, the power of our energy, and just that self-belief and self-love, and love to others and just what we're putting out there. And I mean, I'm sure the Pass Around the Smile community, like, they would froth power of affirmations and all of that. And I think my biggest realizations with affirmations was from one of your workshops, like maybe the second one I went to. And I don't know if I've shared this story with you. Can I share it?
Yes, please.
I think you got us to write down something that we might be struggling with or something like that, and then turning it into a positive affirmation.
Oh, yes, yeah.
And over the years, you've seen my dating history and what's going on there, but I wrote down about love, and I wrote, I deserve love, receive love, I give love, I am love. And I repeated that to myself daily. When I'm driving in my car, I repeat it to myself. And I just said it constantly. I am love, I give love, I receive love, I deserve love. Like some version of that every time. And to the point now where I'm like, oh, well, duh.
Like you've talked yourself into it so much that you genuinely believe it. You're not just saying it. You believe
even
it.
Back then saying it, I thought that I believed it. But like now I'm just like, no, it's a different feeling. And then like what I've attracted into my life is exactly that. Like
a beautiful, beautiful man.
Yeah. So I just think that was my first like real big aha with the power of affirmation. Wow. And that was a big one. And that went over years that I was doing that. Like, and I would sign off every journal entry with those words, those words. I would, just anytime I'm, catch myself thinking a negative thought or, feeling something a little bit yucky, I would say that.
That is beautiful.
So the power of affirmations, I think, is just wild. And the fact that that's been like proven through this water, like the power of what you can say to water and imprint on it, or even the fact of an impression on water, like
wild.
How can you put an impression on something that's water?
It's just like it's actually blown my mind. And I think you guys, you listeners, will get it more when you look at these images, like you said earlier, and we'll put all the links in the show notes. Please go and look at Veda's images. Like, it is mind-blowing. It's one thing to listen to Sinead and I talk about it, but to look at the images where she has put these impressions on energy, which is water, which lives inside of us, like, it goes to show how powerful we are.
Yeah. I think as well, like, it leaves questions so much of like, what is water? Like, what other information does it have that we don't know, or that it's communicating with us, or, how is it used in ancient civilizations? Like, all of those deep, dark rabbit holes.
Yeah. Well, it responds. Like, it's responding to our thoughts, not even just our words or pictures. Our thoughts are changing the structure of it.
It's carrying information as well. So...
wow.
Yeah. I can say a message to my water and pass it to you, and you can freeze it, and there's a message in there for you.
A message in a bottle.
Yeah.
Oh, Sinead, you have been so incredible and so insightful. I just know my Pass Around the Smile community are going to be absolutely obsessed with you. So I will put all of Sinead's links in the show notes. Follow her, get in contact if you want to. You are a wealth of knowledge, and I'm just so honoured to have you as a friend and on the podcast, of course.
Thank you so much for having me.
We might have to do a part 2 after we do some trials of Veda's work, or maybe we get Veda.
I reckon you would be able to. Veda, if you hear this.
If you're listening, we want you.
It would be worth it.
Thanks for listening, guys.
Thank you.